everyone, thank you for joining me today. Today I wanted to take the opportunity to share some doodle and coloring tricks with you. I'm going to teach you how to draw these pumpkins. I have these available for free download on my website for limited time to email subscribers, but I wanted to take this opportunity to show you how you can draw these for yourself. And then also I'll be coloring them in with different mediums just to show you how you can create your own. So firstly, we're going to get started with what I find to be the simplest and easiest hack. All these pumpkins really are ovals. And so I will get started here and show you. Basically, we're just drawing 3 ovals in a row, and you don't have to worry too much about getting the oval perfect. Just kind of get a sense for the shape that you want. You don't want to push too hard. If you push too hard, you're going to run into lines when you're coloring in, so just keep that in mind. And then you can just go ahead and add as many ovals as you want. So now that that's done, I'm going to go in with a drawing pen. I'm just using a Tombow mono drawing pen in size 5. And then we're just going to start doing the outline. Okay, then we're going to draw the stalk. And then we will go in and draw the back end of the pumpkin, like that. And there you have a simple, easy to draw pumpkin. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw some more for you because I'm excited to show you how to color in and create the shadows and the effects. As you can clearly see, none of these pumpkins look the same, not in width, height, or shape. And what makes learning to draw pumpkins so great is that pumpkins aren't in the same width, shape, or height. So it kind of works out that the more sporadic they are, the better. Okay, I'm just going to go in and erase all the lines. And I'm going to be using 5 different things to color these pumpkins in with. And they are Crayola Super Tips, Tombow mono drawing pens, then I have some Prismacolor colored pencils, I have my favorite Derwent 24 Inktense water soluble pencils, and then just for fun we're going to throw in some watercolor pens to play with as well. This is the Prima Marketing Ink Classics. So without further ado, let's get coloring. For your Crayolas, when you're laying the color down, you want to be very careful not to overlap the strokes, at least not at this point. So there's some overlap, but that's okay, we'll get into that now. We're going to go back in with the same color and we're just going to put some shadows in, just over top using the same color. Okay, now we're going to take a black pen. I'm going to use a 01 drawing pen, the finest one I have, and we're going to go in and add some hash marks. Now, I mean, you could stop just where you are without adding the hash marks in, but I kind of like the grungy vibe that the hash marks give the pumpkins. You can just go in different directions just so that it doesn't look uniform. So then Back there. Yeah. Okay, and then I'm just gonna add in just some marks here and there. Oop. Hash marks. It's a grungy pumpkin. And then we'll go in with a white jelly roll. This is a size 8. We're just gonna gently push the ink to get the effects of a shine on the pumpkin. Okay, so you're just gonna think about where the light would be hitting the pumpkin, and then that's where you're going to kind of go in and add your shadows. We're gonna do the green stalk. Now, since the stalk is such a small aspect of the image, I'm not gonna worry too much about detail just because it's going to get lost. So for example, if I put in my hash marks here, you don't really see it, but once it dries a little bit more, you will see the white jelly roll shadow in here. Next tool we're going to use is a Tombow. Now I happen to have the 933 and the 905, so I'm going to use 2 colors for the shading. While I'm doing this coloring, I do want to talk to you. Paper quality is going to make a difference on how these different mediums are going to work on your page. I'm using an Archer and Olive notepad. It's 160 GSM. If you're using less, if you're using 100 GSM notebook or a Moleskine or anything along those lines, you want to be careful how saturated you make the page, and you might want to use pencil instead of marker, to avoid bleeding and ghosting. I'm going to go back in with the lighter color, and I'm just going to blend it just a little bit. Again, you want to be careful with oversaturation. Even in the 160 GSM notebooks, they don't like oversaturation. It's going to be quick. Now again, you can leave it there, or you can go in and add the hash marks. Now we're going to move on to something that's a little bit more labor intensive, and that's the pencils and the paint. So the pencils I'm using are the Prismacolor Premier. You can use your Crayola pencils, you can use whatever pencils you have. They're going to work a little bit differently based on what the lead is, but I mean, it's not that big of a deal unless you decide to kind of take this on as a more intensive career path. And so anyways, I'm just using the basic set, and here I have the orange, and you're going to want to make sure that these guys are sharpened so that you're better able to control how the color gets laid down onto the page. So what I tend to do is I go in and I lay my darker color down first. Now I know that's not necessarily the right way to do it, but I'm not a hyper-realist pencil colorer, so I just kind of do what I need to do to get by. And one of it is laying down where I want my shadows right away. And then with a very light hand, I'm gonna go in and add color. And this is where the real shading trick and the professionals do it, is I just add a bit more color just to blend the shadow a bit more. Now I'm going to go in with a white Jelly Roll pen again to add my bright shadow. But you could technically do that with coloring with the pencil, but it's just easier for me to add the highlighting with the Jelly Roll. Again, I'm just adding layer upon layer just to blend out this shadow a bit more and bring it more into the central portion of the pumpkin. Now you could again leave it right there, but I actually want to share the single greatest tip I've ever been given for pencil drawings. And that is to go in using a blender pencil. So again, this is a Prismacolor Premier colorless blender pencil. And I kid you not, this was the game changer for me, and I'm going to show you why. So if you look in there carefully, it's kind of bumpy from where my draft marks were. Pencil marks were, and I'm going to go in and I'm just going to blend it so that those lines become less distinct, and also the shadowing from where I put the shadows on my pumpkin become less distinct too. Now I'm going to go in again with the 01 drawing pen. The only issue is that when you do the blending of the colored pencil, it creates like a very sheen flat surface. I don't know if you can tell, but it becomes very slippery for the pen. So just keep that in mind when you go in to do this. You're going to run into smudging if you're not careful. Now we're going to use my favorite, which is the Inktense water-soluble watercolor pencils. So here we have the Inktense, the Derwent watercolor pencils. I was super lucky to snag these with a coupon at Michael's a few years ago actually, and I've only recently started using them, which is embarrassing but true. And yeah, I love them so much. Just like the pencil crayons that we used before, we're going to make sure that these guys are sharpened so that we can have better control over where we're going to be putting our shadows. Now I have my paintbrush and some paper towel. As you can see, I've actually already done this, but my camera didn't film it the first time, so here we go. I have my water, which again has an orange tinge to it because I've already done this and my camera didn't capture it. And just like with the colored pencil, we're going to go in and we're going to add our shadows. Now with the watercolor pencils, you can add your shadows really dark, but then you want to be careful how much color you're adding to the rest of the pumpkin. And this is because the more ink you put down, so the more pencil you put down, the more there is for the water to spread. So what that means is you can grab from your shadow and drag to the rest of your pumpkin. So you don't need as much pencil on your image that you're trying to draw. I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to replay it in my head and I don't know if it made 100% sense, but let me know down in the comments. And I'm just going to sharpen this guy again. When you're putting color down, you don't have to worry as much about blending the darker areas in quite as much as you did with the colored pencil. and that's because the water is kind of going to do it for you. Once I wet my brush, I'm going to try get as much water off as possible so that I don't oversaturate my page, because that's when you're going to run into buckling of your planner or your bullet journal page. And now the other trick is to work fast. Because it dries super quick. Okay, now before we go in and we add our effects, I'm actually going to put this aside and let it dry. And we're gonna grab our actual watercolor pans to color the sky in. So this is again the Prima Marketing, or the Art Philosophy, I think they rebranded to. So we're just gonna activate it. And then same story, we're going to dry off our paintbrush. Sorry, I'm gonna put more water on that. And we're gonna wanna work fast because it dries so quickly. Normally when I use this method, I won't have outlined my pumpkins yet, because my ink is actually water-based, and so, or my pen ink, I'm sorry, is water-based. So you can see that the ink is threatening to lift up. So I'm just trying to avoid touching them at this time. And there we go. So there's our watercolor pan pumpkin. We're going to close that guy up. We're going to let it dry, and we're going to go back in and we're going to add our details onto this one. Kind of dry. Actually, going to err on the side of caution. We're going to come back in a few minutes once I'm sure these have dried. But in the meantime, I'm going to write down what these were. Okay, now that we've left enough time to dry, we're going to go in and add our details. There is how to draw a pumpkin, and that is how to color it in with the various mediums. So again, that's kind of more in my style. You can put in more cross-hatching, you can take out some cross-hatching. Looking at it overall, I would take some cross-hatching out in some places, but it is what it is. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. If you recreate this, I'd love it if you could tag me. I'd love to see your own creations using these techniques. Otherwise, I hope you subscribe, and then I can keep creating more fun videos like this. Thank you for watching.